Welcome to the Rise of Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Albert Shakhnazarov. This is the place where we bring you thought leaders, innovators, and success stories from various of industries to inspire you and elevate your entrepreneurial journey. See, this show is dedicated to uncovering the mindsets, strategies, and lessons that have allowed individuals to rise to the top in their respective fields. In today's episode, we have truly an exceptional guest, someone who is known to be a powerhouse in the real estate industry and mentor to many aspiring entrepreneurs. With over 4 decades of experience, he has not only weathered the storms of financial crises, but also industry shifts. He has thrived and helped many others do the same. He's somebody who has a reputation of calling people out, somebody who is not afraid to tell the truth, and somebody who is willing to go out there and give back to people who have been cheated by the market, by the people, and he's somebody who wants to make the world a better place. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome to the Rise of Entrepreneur our next guest, Mark Shapiro. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
And I don't really hold anything back
Yeah.
because what you see is what you get, and
That's
this
right.
is the way I am.
That's right.
If I don't like something, I'm going to tell you. If I
love it.
disagree with somebody, I'm going to tell them. Okay, let them contact me and correct me, and if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself.
Yep.
And
And
I'll apologize too.
And this is your style, right? You're known for no nonsense business, right? It's like, okay, there's a lot of fluff out there. There's a lot of fake gurus out there, but you are someone who has the balls to go out there and say, I'm going to call you out. And we need more men like that in our world today. We need more people like that in our world today. So thank you for being who you are. Thank you for stepping into the light and allowing people to know what's fake and what's real. Thank you for coming to this podcast because our mission is to go out there and inspire, influence, and impact. That's what we stand for. There's so many young entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's super powerful.
Thank you.
Super.
And there's so many young entrepreneurs that are taken advantage of, right? Buy this course, come to this conference, pay me this much for this call. And they're spending their last dollar to go out there and get some knowledge, get some insight. And they get the bullshit. They get the basic stuff that doesn't even help them. When I started my business, I was 17 years old, right? Mm-hmm. I had to go out there and be the man because I decided not to go to college. And if I was going to go to college, I wasn't going to sit on a couch and eat potato chips. I had to go out there and, I had a why. And that my why was to retire my dad.
And cheese puffs.
Right, exactly.
And don't forget pizza.
Right. And I had to retire my dad because my dad had 3 heart attacks. Sacrificed everything to come to this country for me and my brothers. And I said, I can't continue to see my father, who's an immigrant, who dropped everything to come to this country, to break his back 80 hours, 100 hours a week to put food on the table. I have to go out there and do something. So when I went there, I was taken advantage of. A lot of people fooled me. And I was wishing to have a mentor that actually cared, that wanted to propel me to go further, and I couldn't find it. So when I made it, when I started making money, when I became successful, when I exited a couple of my companies, I said, I'm going to create this podcast, and we're going to interview the real people with the real success to go out there and help other entrepreneurs. So I'm excited to interview you. I'm excited to dig deep in your mind to be able to get as much information to help our people.
Well, I want to tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you bought something, it had no value.
0.
And you're like thinking, I'm kind of a bright guy, and I bought something, I got nothing out of it. Do you know how many times I've invested in deals and I've been screwed on? Probably at least I can count 5 on my hand. All non-real estate deals.
All non-real estate.
All non-real estate deals.
Wow.
And I will throw money at anything. And I have.
Wow.
And I was the money behind Harry's Pizza.
Interesting. Harry's
Pizza, and he opened up his first shop. You were talking about Connecticut.
Yeah.
On Capitol Avenue.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's one of the guys that paid me back. So another guy, we did a restaurant downtown. I actually ended up buying the lease, and we put a steakhouse and a little piano bar there.
Okay.
It was called Blue Star. was a great run for 3 years, and the husband and wife team ended up getting divorced.
Wow.
Okay. The two deals that I wish I had invested in was a company called Boston Chicken.
Okay.
Today, you know it as Boston Market.
Yep. Yep.
And another company called Annie's.
Pretzel.
No, it's not Annie's Pretzels. It's Annie's mac and cheese, natural mac and cheese.
Interesting.
And they grew enormously. And both of those deals my first wife talked me out of. So,
Wow.
but yes.
Okay. Were born and raised where?
So I was raised between here and Connecticut.
Yep. Yep.
I love Connecticut. It's a little too conservative for me.
Okay.
It's a little too Yankee obnoxious mentality. So I moved here when I was very young.
Okay.
And because my mother's whole family is from here, from
Yes.
South Florida, I look at this as home because someone once told me, and I think it might have come from a Hallmark card, but I actually think it's from E.E. Cummings, home is where you're happiest. So E.E. Cummings, which was a famous writer, I don't think it was Walt Whitman, he wrote a poem called I Give You My Heart.
Okay.
And this was part of home is where you're happiest. So we never spent a summer in Connecticut. We spent every summer here on the beach, whether I was picking up towels at one of my grandfather's little hotels, little flea bag hotels on the beach, or I was working for my uncles. I've watched Miami go from, as a kid, maybe 100, 200,000 people to now I think it's close to 3 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot. But today, I couldn't think of living anywhere else. I don't like the traffic the way it is.
Yes.
I mean, the traffic is almost as bad as Manhattan.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Your father was a dentist.
yes.
Your mother was in a real estate.
My mother started out as a residential real estate
Yep.
broker, and then evolved. Back then, you had to start as residential. I think you had to work 3 years, then test, and then she became a commercial real estate broker.
Unpack this for me, because a lot of people are just getting to know you in a social media space, right? And there's a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the question is, what type of a home did Mark grow up in? What did his parents teach him? Because based on my research, you had very, very good parents.
Tremendous. My father and two of his brothers were dentists, and we have two other dentists in the family. My father's oldest brother sat on the Connecticut Supreme Court. His name was Judge Lou Shapiro. And he was way too serious for me. He was always pissed off, it seemed like. But his wife, Betty, she was amazing. My father was a frustrated baseball player. He was probably good enough to play in the minor league level, shortstop, and diehard Red Sox fan. And my father used to take me with him, as my mother used to take me with him. And everything with my father was about integrity and honor.
Love that.
And my father didn't have the most successful dental practice. He was what's back in the day called a stand-up dentist. And when his patients couldn't pay him, they paid him in other ways, whether they painted the house or they came and cut the grass, or they, we always had lots of tires. And I don't know why we had all these tires, but it was because people paid him sometimes in tires.
There's a quote that you said about your father. My father wasn't about money, but he was for the people.
Yeah. My father used to he was tough as hell, okay? And children were seen and not heard. That's what he said. So we didn't talk at dinner. We just sat there and listened. And if we did talk, my father was a lefty, and he would give me a good shot, But my father made sure that we knew how to be disciplined. And the discipline was, the first thing you do when you get up is make your bed. It's a simple task.
Yeah.
But at least you've completed something so simple, you've achieved something, and you go on to achieve other things in the day. My father also was a very early riser. My father's work ethic was insane. And my father, until I was an adult and until I had children, never really told me that he loved me. But he showed it. But as he became a grandfather, he became more emotional.
Wow.
And I always tell everybody, don't wait to tell your kids and your parents that you love them. Just tell them you love them.
I agree.
It's
Is the reason why you wake up 4:30 no matter how many hours you sleep is because your father was an early riser and that's the example he set for you?
I started doing it back when I was in college, and I always just felt that I had this time where I could just hear myself think. And anytime I wanted to study for a test, I always studied early in the morning. I never studied late at night because you don't retain things when you're sleepy or tired. And your brain's sharp. And I always felt that I got more accomplished by getting up early.
Interesting. Okay. Talking about making a bed, I'm here with a couple of my executives. We're in a conference. We're doing a lot of different things. I'm doing a podcast with a couple people. And we're sharing an Airbnb. We're all staying in one house, Airbnb. And I asked them last night, we got home at 1:30. We just finished. Everybody was working till 1:30 in the morning. And I said, we're about to go to sleep. But the question is, are you going to come back to a bed that's already made?
Yeah.
And everybody looked at me and they said, I don't remember if I made my bed. Oh, I don't think I did make my bed. And for me, I wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock between that time every morning. I got 3 kids. I got a wife, right? When I get up, she's still sleeping. The kids are still sleeping. So I don't get to make my bed at home, right? So when I woke up here and I said, no, my wife's not going to do it. My kid's not going to do it. My cleaning people are not going to do it. I have to do it. And as much as I was tired, I still made my bed. And you talk a lot about routines. You talk a lot about discipline, right?
It's ritual and routine.
Right.
Okay. What time do you think Warren Buffett wakes up at? Okay. Or Bill Gates. All right. Or even, look, everybody thinks I don't like the guy because the video that I did that went viral was about Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
What time do you think Grant gets up at?
Yeah, beats the sun.
Every successful person gets up early and is driven. Why are they driven? Not necessarily for the financial gain, but for the accolades of what they do, because you can only spend so much money in the course of a day, a week, a year. What that money can do is it gives you the ability to have time. So when you fly private, it gives you the ability to be able to say, I want to go to the West Coast, and you have a 3-hour standing wait.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you call General Aviation, they will say, okay, what time you want to get here.
Yeah.
You don't have to get on the phone with Delta Airlines and make a reservation and go through TSA and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, you're already cleared. And you don't have to worry about checking this bag. You just go. Okay? And then when you get there, someone's there to pick you up. You just make sure it's prearranged.
Yeah.
And that makes you more efficient. In a lot of respects, I agree with super successful people on things like that, right? But some super successful people, I have a friend, okay? I don't know whether he's worth $5 billion today or $7 billion or whatever it is. He flies commercial. He wears the same jeans and the same blue LL Bean shirt to work every day. Okay? So I don't disagree, but his son doesn't fly commercial. His son flies on the corporate Gulfstream. So, it's all about what you value. And I always say this, is that, what do they print every day?
Money.
They print money every day. Do they print time?
No.
No. So I'm 64, and when you're older, you want to be younger. And when you're a kid, you want to grow old. You want to be a grown-up faster.
Yeah.
So you can drink and drive and do all these things. Okay,
Yeah.
Probably not in that order,
Yeah.
Probably not driving and drinking either, because that's not a good thing to do.
Right.
Not a good combo.
Right.
But, today's society it seems like it's lost its honor. And you asked me before we started how I got into this. So I had done a little stuff and was trying to provide some valuable information.
Yes.
And, I stopped doing it. I got terribly sick with COVID at the end of the year. I was really, really, really sick. I still sometimes feel like I'm recovering from it.
Wow.
And it made me reassess the direction that I wanted to go into life. And, instead of doing, 2 deals a year, I decided that I knew a lot about real estate, and I was going to create a course, and I wanted to make a difference in other people's lives. And that same billionaire that I'm very close with, he and I have a deal. And the deal is his goal when he became very wealthy was to change the path of 10 people.
Wow.
And I'm his partner in changing the path of those 10 people. So I have to change the path of 5 people. Now, today, since we opened up this community, we have almost 200 people in the community, and all the new people, we've done 11 transactions in less than 90 days. All with just the simple, basic real estate concepts that the famous Robert G. Allen used in his book from 1980, which I read going into my junior year, and that's when I bought my first deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you're helping these people, right? Why do you feel like you have to do that? Because a lot of people, they just want to make money. Mm-hmm. I mean, you charge for your course, if I'm not mistaken, less than $30.
So the course started out at $27.
Yeah.
And these 2 young men that came with me, the young one with the blonde hair, he's the one that said, Mark, I really think you'd be really good with social media, and let me, we'll film some stuff and we'll post once a week and, we'll see how it goes. And that was the one who shot that video that we posted. I think it was April 16th. And I'm driving back because we filmed in Weston at a friend of mine's house. And I actually went there for lunch, and I told Christian his name. I said, Christian, why don't you meet me? We'll film out by the pool or film somewhere. And he's like, okay. And I said, whatever I do, I'm going to start a new company. We're going to call it Shapiro Capital, and I'm going to give you ownership, and I'm going to give your friend ownership, and you guys run the whole thing, okay? And I'll be the bank, whatever it costs, however you want to do it, just tell me, okay, and I'll bank it. Mm. So he's like, okay, we have to form. So we do all those things.
Yeah.
And we filmed that video, and he said, you know what, I'm going to edit it right now because it's really good. I'm like, what do you mean it's really good? He's like, I don't know. It's just really good. It's like you're talking about someone who's putting someone who's in the upper 1% down, because he said that if you make $400,000 a year, you're nothing.
We're talking about Grant Cardone.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Who, by the way, I know, and by the way, he's a nice guy. He's not a bad guy.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a little greedy, and that's going to be this downfall.
You believe so? It's coming?
I don't know. I mean, the way he buys deals, yeah, he overpays for everything.
Wow.
So
that's not what he says.
But I won't overpay for anything. I have an inherent problem of paying retail for anything. So that's why I buy distressed deals.
Yeah.
So we did the video, and I'm driving back. I stopped at Starbucks to get a coffee, and we're driving back, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like having a baby Ruth. I don't know why, but my mother loved him, so I stopped at the Shell station right by the Starbucks, got a baby Ruth, got on the turnpike, and started driving back to the beach. And he calls me, and he said, I just posted the video. I'm like, okay, thanks, great. And he goes, no, I just posted the video. I'm like, I understand. I heard you the first time. I'm not deaf.
Yeah.
I may be, older, but I'm not deaf.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you're not listening. I said, I am. What are you trying to say? He goes, Mark, the video's been up for 30 minutes, and it's at 150,000 views. I'm like, well, is that good? I said, I don't know this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know social media. And he said, oh, this is going to go to 1 million. I said, what do you mean it's going to go to 1 million? He said, it's going to go to 1 million. By the time I got to the beach, it was at 500,000.
Wow.
That was 45 minutes. I have no idea why it went viral. He explained it to me like this. He said the algorithm picked it up, and it pushes it through different feeds. And this was on TikTok, not Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the beginning, we didn't do really well on Instagram.
Interesting. Okay.
And it pushed it through TikTok, and then, boom, we just started. He said, we need to do more videos. I said, okay. He said, what's your schedule? I said, well, I've got this to do. And he goes, no. When can we film for another day? I'm like, come to my house and we'll film. Let's go pick a location. So we picked a location, and we started filming where I have an investment unit south of Fifth, and we filmed there. And then the thing just kind of took off out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I would, he would tell me, Mark, check this out. And I would go on and I would go through this guy's funnel, and I was like, what is this guy talking about? This guy's an idiot.
Mm.
And each one of these guys that sells these courses,
Yeah.
most of these courses are worthless. And the Section 8, it's extremely complicated, right? No, it's not.
It's not. Yeah, you said it takes 15 minutes to learn it.
15 minutes, I can teach you Section 8, okay? And you have guys charging $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 to teach people Section 8. Now, there's the guy that I don't even know if this is his real name, Tom Cruise, okay? Goes by Tom Cruise. Maybe it's not his real name. It's not the Tom Cruise movie actor.
Right.
And he teaches Section 8, and I think he does a very good job at it. And I think he, I don't know what he charges. I'm not actually sure. I don't think he overcharges people. I think he gives you software, and I think he gives you some support.
Interesting.
But a lot of these guys, in Yiddish, they're called ganefs. So you speak any Yiddish?
No.
So Yiddish means ganef, okay, which means a crook.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, it's like, what's the word for a pig that doesn't fly straight?
Scarface.
And what's it called?
Man.
Chazer.
The Hazar.
A chazer means chazerai.
Okay.
And a chazer is a pig that doesn't fly straight. And there's a lot of these guys in this industry.
There is.
So I spent an afternoon, and I wrote a real estate course, and then I refined it a little bit, and I spent another couple hours. I wrote a business course.
Wow.
And I wrote the Section 8 course, which is fast and simple. And I just recently I'm teaching people how to take a 30-year mortgage and turn it into a 7.5-year mortgage. Everything the bank doesn't want you to know. And then why you should use a HELOC as an investment vehicle versus doing a refi or doing a home loan.
How valuable is that? People.
I hope.
Yeah. Oh.
Some of the people in my community, I'm very lucky to have them in my community. For me, it's a blessing to be able to teach them. Okay, and that for me is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to slow things down.
Yep.
I'm trying to bring back a level of beauty around what's going on in people's lives.
Yep.
And create more honor within this industry. So,
and that goes back to you said today people don't have honor. Today people want things easy. They expect the government to take care of them. They expect the world just to hand things over to them. Now, I want to kind of pivot here to go into most important thing that you stand for is calling out the bullshit, right? Is being able to bring some ethical practices back to the business world. Mm-hmm. What do people see in paying $50,000 for a course that doesn't help them, but they feel like, oh, well, it's Grant Cardone or it's, so and so I can go buy that course because it's from them. Do you think the reason why they charge so much, not because they believe the information is any different, but because it comes from them? And do you think that's unethical?
So in real estate, we have a saying, buyer beware, right?
Buyer beware, okay.
And my youngest daughter, I have 4 daughters. My youngest daughter, her name is Isabella. She's a sophomore at University of Tampa. And she's a little like me, but she's tough. And she sometimes uses the F word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And sometimes when I'm talking about somebody, I get so pissed off that I swear, and I was raised, we don't swear.
Wow.
That's it. Okay, so I'm trying to make a conscious effort. And the point is that I'm going to say this because I want to look in the camera and I want to say this. Grant, what the fuck are you doing taking money from people and teaching them something that has no value?
Wow.
That, for me, is wrong. And quite frankly, anytime we've had interaction, you've been nothing but a gentleman to me. All right? And yes, I did agree to speak at your WealthCon. So, but I'm not going to change my principles.
Love that. Has Grant reached out or approached you about you calling him out? I'm just curious.
I don't know if we should touch that, but it wasn't Grant who reached out to me.
It was his team.
Someone that sleeps with him.
His wife. Wow.
So, and then the text disappeared. So, and I didn't know you could even do that. So
Yeah.
I'm not super tech savvy.
Yeah.
Who reached out to me recently? Eric Spotford. He told me, I just found out about you 15 minutes ago. Take my name out of your mouth. I'm like, okay, we've never met.
Yeah.
Because he FaceTimed me. And I said, look, I'm in the middle, right? I was actually on a call on a deal, a really complicated deal that we're closing on. We're buying the debt on a Class A deal, and we're buying it from a public company, and they're writing it. So I was actually on a team call, and somebody FaceTimed me, and I picked it up, and it was him.
How did he get your number?
That's a good question.
Because I know you're a very private person.
It's a really good question. Because I went through a sales funnel because I wanted to see. And I saw an opportunity there because I buy paper. I buy mortgage tape. Mortgage tape is mortgages that are defaulted in bulk at a discount.
Okay.
And I wanted to offer him for his Section 8 clients. So I went and I sent him a DM with my cell phone. I think that's how he got it. He probably got it from somebody else. I went through a sales funnel. I was mortified after going through a sales funnel. So he said to me, I only charge $57 for my course. I'm like, well, that's not what I saw in your funnel. And I didn't know it was called a sales funnel back then. I do know now.
Yeah, okay.
And he said, well, I don't appreciate you deleting my text. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what you're talking about. So I had to do some research in my organization, which we started with these 2 kids, and now we have 11 people in Shapiro Capital in 4 months. It's weird. And I said to him, I'll get to the bottom of this. Give me your cell, and I'll call you back.
Yeah.
So we did. I found out one of the guys that answers my comments and answers some of my DMs saw him say something rude. So they know if somebody copies me, report it, because I get copied 30 times a day.
Wow.
And I don't know why they're copying me. And he saw this and he deleted it. So I called him the other day and got his answering. I didn't get him. I left him a message, and then I told him I hadn't had a chance to go back through your funnel. I had my head of technology. I had him go back through it because he's a very disciplined guy. And he went back through it and he gave me a write-up. And it's exactly what I listened to. It's just the same bullshit. So, I would have made a video and say, I'm wrong. Okay? I'll man up and say I'm wrong. But no, he didn't.
A lot of our listeners are curious. How did you meet Grant, and how did you get to know Grant?
So we all go to the same conferences. We all go to multifamily. It's 4 times a year. I actually met Grant through a really super duper amazing broker partner of mine in Aventura. And we're buying a 68 unit apartment deal, Class A, in Malibu, about a mile from the beach, half a mile from Nobu, about a mile and maybe 2 miles from Grant's house in Carbon Beach.
Okay.
Malibu's Pacific Coast Highway. This is right off Pacific Coast Highway, and we're doing a conversion on it. And we paid $522 a foot. You couldn't buy the dirt for $522 a foot.
Mm-hmm.
People were like, "How did you get this deal?" I'm like, "That's what I do." Okay. And the deal was brought to me. So we called him to talk to him about the deal, and Grant does only apartments. He doesn't do conversions. But we ended up staying on the phone, and we were talking about a portfolio that we were buying in Texas that was a distressed deal, and he was really interested in it. And I told him that, I had a friend of mine who runs a pension fund, owns a piece of an NBA team. He's my investor in the deal, and didn't need an investor. And he's like, "Well, do you want to sell it?" I'm like, "No." And then I ran into him at the multifamily in Vegas. He was actually there with his daughter, who's one of the most amazing kids I think I've ever seen. I mean, kid's amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, she is going to, I'm sure, take over his company and take it to the moon.
That's very kind of you to say that.
Yeah.
That's very kind. And you have 4 daughters yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing the ages?
So my oldest is 32, lawyer. Second oldest is 29, marketing. Third oldest is 28, lawyer. And then my youngest is the 19-year-old, who is she's a beast. She's the most like me.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a real hustler.
Love that. Let me ask you, despite selling courses for $50,000 or whatever the case may be, is Grant good at what he does based on your years of experience and the things that you do in that marketplace?
So philosophically, in the multifamily space, I don't have the same philosophy that Grant has.
Okay.
Typically, Grant buys, and I could be wrong, and if I say this and I'm wrong, I'd be happy to apologize and correct myself. He buys typically a product, and he typically buys deals that have a cap rate, which stands for capitalization rate, between 3 and 4. And he then buys those deals and he puts them into his fund. How he maybe buys them as an individual and then puts them into the fund, I don't know how he does that, but that is what's called in the syndication business front running, and it's totally legal under the SEC guidelines, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. Grant's typical vehicle is he uses what's called a Regulation A Tier 2, which allows him to raise $75 million. It's crowdfunding. Or he uses the CF law, which is the crowdfunding law. All were created under the Obama-era Jobs Act, which was one of the great things that President Obama did do, besides rescue the banks. Okay, and when obviously I'm not a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but I will tell you that I wasn't an Obama fan, but as I grew and matured, I realized what an amazing speaker he was and how bright he is.
Yeah.
Okay. And that had he not rescued the banks, today this country would be in a much different place.
Okay.
And that's probably, and everybody thinks Obamacare is the great thing he did. No. He rescued the banks. Okay. He forced that that rescue.
So take me back to 2008 because you have survived and thrived during the crisis. So when 2008 happened, where are you in your business? What do you do? How did that surprise you, or did it surprise you?
So I've gone through 4 major cycles and 2 minor cycles.
Okay.
I would say maybe 3 minor cycles. And I started buying distressed deals back from the RTC, which stands for the Resolution Trust Corp, which was the entity that the government created to take over for the savings and loan failure. And that was back in the late 80s. So when the S&Ls failed, they created a corporation that offloaded the assets to developers. So they had to take it off the balance sheet of all the failed banks. You've had that happen a few times. So you had that happen in the 2000s where there was a lot of bank failures, and the FDIC, which stands for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, comes in, shuts the bank down. They have a sister bank that's going to take over the bank, so it mirrors so that the next day, the bank can open and people's money is insured.
Yeah.
They take their money in and out. And why those banks had to fail was because they made riskier real estate loans.
Yeah.
Before the Dodd-Frank law happened from the 2008 banking crisis.
For the people that don't know what Dodd-Frank law is, can you clarify?
So during the great financial crisis, the banks had certain capital requirements, and they had a law which was called mark to market. And it's exactly what it sounds like. They had to take the asset and mark it to the market value.
Okay.
If a bank didn't do that, and they would keep it on their books and they would just keep rolling the loan over, they didn't have to reduce their net capital, and banks lend off of their net capital because banks have capital, then they borrow with that net capital to leverage up their balance sheet and lend money and make a spread. So bank's a bookie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all they are. All right? People think, oh, they take in this money from checking and savings and they lend it out. No. They take that money in, goes on their balance sheet, they use that on the balance sheet, and they borrow against it. Then they put the money out, they service it. Those loans get packaged in the securitization game, which is the RMBS game, which is residential mortgage-backed securities, or the CMBS game, which is commercial mortgage-backed securities. They get rated, they get chomped up, and they get sold in different tranches. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Different slices of risk. Lowest risk, highest risk.
Yeah.
Okay. Higher return, lower return. So when the banks came in and all these banks started to fail, and the law said that you had to mark your assets to market. During Dodd-Frank said, okay, you can't foreclose on somebody. You can't evict them from their house for 24 months. And that was because of the great financial crisis of 2008. At the same time, they changed bank law requirements. So banks no longer market their assets to market. They no longer required to do that. So therefore, they no longer have to meet a certain stress test. So banks have the same thing, and I'm sure everybody or most people have bought a diamond, and a diamond has the 4 C's: cut, carat, clarity, and what's the 4th one? Color.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So I have a cousin that's a jeweler.
Yeah.
And in banking, they have capital, community, collateral, and I forgot what the 4th C is, but there's a 4th C, okay, in banking.
Cash flow?
Capital is cash. Community is lending within the community under a regulation called the CRA, which stands for the Community Reinvestment Act, which banks have to lend to certain areas and people at certain levels.
Wow.
And they get what's called credits, okay? And then collateral is their cash and cash equivalents,
right,
securities, and so forth. And I always forget what the 4th is, but maybe it's credit. I gotta look it up.
Gotcha.
So what they do is by changing that, Dodd-Frank made it so much easier. And Dodd-Frank was the senator from Connecticut. I don't know if you remember him.
No.
His name was Chris Dodd. Okay, and a senator from Massachusetts, Barry Frank.
Okay.
And they were both on the Senate
Yeah.
Banking Commission.
Gotcha.
And that's why it became Dodd-Frank.
Understood.
And by the way, a little known fact, there's a big law firm called Schatz, Ribicoff, and Kotkin in 84 that runs through Hartford. This guy, Abe Ribicoff, their family owned the land, and that's why the 84 goes that way along the river.
Yeah.
Out toward East Hartford.
Yeah.
Okay. And
East River Drive.
Yeah. And one of the Schatzes, and I grew up with one of the founding partners' son. One of the Schatzes, his cousin is the one who created Louis Schatz, the LLC. He wrote the law for a hybrid, an LLC, a limited partnership, and a subchapter S corp, which is what an LLC is.
Wow.
Smart guy. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So based on everything that's going on, I wanna understand, how did Mark Shapiro become Mark Shapiro? I understand your story.
Mm-hmm.
Dad is a dentist who doesn't care too much about the money, cares a lot about people. Mom seems to be more ambitious, more hustler, going out there making deals. She takes you with you. She takes you
She
with
used to
her
drag me
everywhere.
as a
Right,
kid.
right. And she made you do some work, right, to learn and stuff like that. But a lot of people want to know, if your mom wasn't a real estate agent, if your dad wasn't a dentist, and you were born into a completely different family, would you still be Mark Shapiro you are today? That hustler, that somebody that needs to go out there and make things happen. Would you be the same person, you think?
Wow. Nobody's ever asked me that. That's a tough question. I actually don't know. I'm really driven.
Yeah.
I'm a small guy, and you'd figure, I say I played a sport in college, and you would say, what did you play? Checkers, or what did you play? Ping pong. I'm like, no, I was actually a high school tailback, and I was a college tailback, and I was really driven because I loved playing the game. I loved the physical aspect of the game. I was much bigger, but there's nobody that was ever faster than me. And it's funny, we just did a live, and we were coming over here, and there was a kid that was on the live in his pads going to practice at junior college. And I asked him, I said, what was your 40? He goes 4.5. I said, so was I. So I don't know, but I will tell you that I've always been driven. So if you're driven, you're going to find something that you're passionate about. And quite frankly, when we bought that first property, and my father was my investor, I couldn't find a bank. We asked 10 banks and ended up borrowing it from United Bank and Trust,
Right.
which was then bought by Fleet in '86, so they could cross over the interstate banking lines, and then Fleet became Bank of America. I think I probably still would have went into real estate, because when you grow up and you see how important it is, a home, a roof over your head, to sit down at the dinner table, to just have a meal, okay? The greatest thing you can do is sit down and have a meal with somebody.
Yes.
Okay? And I will tell you, this is a crazy thing, and we went out to dinner. I was a little kid, and we went to a steak place, and it was a nice steak place.
Yeah.
And we used to always have dinner. My mom always cooked, but occasionally we would go out. So we went to this nice steak place, and we asked before we order anything. Dad, what can we get? I don't know. Maybe I was 10 or 11. And
Is that because of fear, because of respect, because of
absolutely
love?
from respect.
Respect, no fear.
Absolutely. No, I didn't. I loved my father. I worshipped him.
Wow.
And, I said to my dad, I said, Dad, you know, what can I get? And he's like, get whatever you want. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, I've never tried this one. He goes, well, that's a ribeye. And he said, you'll like it. He says, it's a little fatty, or, he goes, I'm going to get this one. So I'm like, okay. And he liked the sirloin strip because it's less fat. So my steak came, and for some reason, I always put ketchup on everything. And I asked for ketchup, and my brother's making fun of me. My father said, don't make fun of him. But taste your steak first. So, and, I said to my dad, taste it first. And he said, yeah, taste it before you put anything on it, okay? Don't put something on it first. Taste it, see if it's good, okay? Then you don't have to put anything on it. If you put something on it, then you can't change it. So I always thought about that. And whenever we hired somebody at a higher level, like in-house attorney, we opened up, when we built our portfolio up to 15,000 units, and we had a big staff, and I wanted my own accounting department, and we actually wanted to do everything in-house. I took out first time I hired an in-house attorney, I took him out for dinner, and we went for steak, and the steaks came, and the first thing he did was taste it. Okay? And I said, why did you taste it first? I said, why didn't you put the salt on or the pepper? And he said, well, how do I know what it tastes like first? I've got to put that on there. And I used that as a test. Anytime that I had two people that I was competing for the same job, and I would take them out to dinner together, and I would watch how they acted. I would watch how they acted and interacted with the waiter and with anyone in their general sphere. And if they treated the waiter the same way they treated me,
Yep.
I saw them as a different person. If they treated me differently than they treated the waiter, that was not the person I was going to hire. So, those are little things that you see and that you learn from. I don't think that answered your question.
No. But that's okay, because I have a follow-up on that. You had a mother that really cared, but she cared in a way where she didn't make it easy for you.
Nope.
Right? She said, hey, here's 10 banks. Call them. Hey, I want you to go talk to this person. I want you to go do this research. I want you to do ABC. So she could have easily gave you everything, but she did it. She wanted you to learn it. She wanted to have you put in that work. Mm-hmm. My question is, do you think it was planned that 10 banks that you first originally called, the one that did give you the loan wasn't on that list?
No. Because first, when we put the property under contract, she said to me, now you need to do a rehab budget, and you need to create a one-page sheet of what you're going to do with the property, what the rents are going to be, what the expenses are going to be, and what the income is.
Right.
And I'm like, well, how do I do that? She said, well, you read Robert Allen's book. Just go back to the book.
Right.
I'm like, well, you don't want to help me with it? She's like, no.
For our
Just
listeners,
make sure it's on one page.
Can you explain why you need that? Why do you need to do a sheet?
You need to prove the concept of what you're buying. You need to be able to show that it's going to cash flow, or you need to be able to show what you're doing and where you're taking it and how you're increasing the value of it.
And it's the same concept as if I was to go to the bank and ask for a loan and say, I want to open this business. Do you have a business plan?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's no different.
It's no different.
It's no different. So I did that, And I said, now what do I do? And she said, here. And I said, what is this? She said, it's rate sheets. She said, there's a rate sheet. There's what you're buying. It says 1 to 4 family. And there's a name and a number. Call them all. Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And tell them you're looking for a loan. And ask them how much the application fee is. And I called all 10 of them. I got 2 that said they would take an application from me.
Yeah.
Okay? They came out and took an application. It was $125 back then. Okay? And back then they did a verification of deposit, physical verification of employment. I'm like, I don't have a job. I'm a college student. I was bartending, but I don't have a job.
Right.
But here's the money, here's the bank account, here's where it is. And okay. And so I couldn't get the first 8 to even give me an app, and the other 2 took me through the process, and they turned me down because I was a college student. So I came back to my mother. We're sitting at dinner, and I said to my mom, and she was getting ready to make dinner because she, was always running and busy, but we always sat down at 5:30 to have dinner when my dad got home, and the food was hot, and my mother treated him like a king, and I said to my mom, we're sitting in the kitchen, she's cooking, and I'm like, Ma, I can't get a loan. I don't know what to do. And she said, well, why don't you pitch it to an investor? I'm like, who? She said, did you ever think of your father?
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad's an investor? She said, well, your grandfather started a bank and he's a real estate developer. What do you think? I'm like, all right, that's a great idea. So I gave my father my 1-page.
How old are you at that time?
I'm a junior in college.
Junior in college, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I showed it to my dad. He said, let me take a look at it. He says to me the next day, where are you going to be and this date at this time? I'm like, well, wherever you need me to be.
Mark, man, because I think it's important for our listeners. You're so ambitious that you wanted to talk about this during dinner. And your father said to you, No?
No.
You did not want to talk about it?
Did not want to talk about it. No, we didn't talk about stuff like that at dinner.
Right.
It was more about when I became older, it was more about how was your day, how's school,
Right. But then I remember, either hearing or reading where you said, want to talk about it now? And he said, no, we're going to respect your mom.
There was a lot of boundaries.
A lot of boundaries.
There's a lot of boundaries.
Do you think today's world lacks that?
Absolutely. It's scary.
Yeah, people are on iPads in a restaurant. Everybody's
How
on
about
their
the people
phone.
that are walking into you while they're on their phone?
Wow.
I mean, literally, they're not paying attention to anything around them.
What do you think is the cause of that? Why at 2024 humans are becoming almost dumber?
They don't know how to interact. They don't know how to pick up a book and read a book. They don't know how to go out and actually just go outside and do something physical. I mean...
But where does that stem from? Parenting, school, government?
It stems from everything. It stems from the government wanting to give all this aid. Give somebody a job. Give somebody a vocation. Teach somebody to do something, and they don't have to get aid. Teach somebody how to change the course of their life and change the course of their children's life. Then you've changed someone's life. Okay? What is it? What's the Bible? I'm not a big Bible quoter. What does it say? It says, feed a man a fish.
Yeah, give a man a fish, he eats once. Teach a man how to fish, he'll eat forever.
Right.
Wow.
So the whole idea is actually to do that.
Wow.
Okay, and that will spur a movement.
And that's what your mom did to you?
Yeah, and so that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So,
you said that your father could have been, he loved sport, he played. Mm-hmm. Was he better at baseball, was it? or golf? Because you say you play golf all the
My
time.
father was everyone in my family is a damn good golfer.
Yeah. You play yourself?
I do.
Okay.
I actually I stopped playing, and I've been playing a lot more tennis, and I recently took up playing pickleball, because I just at this age, you know, golf is sometimes feels like a waste of time.
Wow.
When you get good at something, it's not a challenge anymore. So
And you're the type of person that wants to challenge yourself all the time.
I pushed myself to become a better golfer.
What are you most, and this is interesting for me, what are you most driven by? Setback, proving a point, winning? What's really drives you? Like that you go insane, that you just become this unstoppable force. What needs to happen in your life where you say, okay, I'm all in on this thing?
I actually don't know. I will tell you that this whole thing with social media to me, is more about honor. And I really feel that in society, in today's society, it's become the now generation. Now it's become the ultra now generation. It's become the dig me, in football, we used to wear our socks a certain way, and we used to tape our ankles a certain way, and our wrists, okay? And, we would, cut our undershirt a certain way. We did certain, and we called it dig me, okay? We wore our gloves a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
In business, today, it's like, well, dig my Lamborghini, or, dig my boat. And do guys even own the boat? Do they even know how to drive a boat? Do they know if they drive a cat, which is a caterpillar, a grader, that a boat runs the same way with two screws? Do they know that a screw is an engine? Do they even know this stuff? I don't think they do. You don't use a wheel to steer it. You use the engines to steer it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Use the engines to park it. That's
Yeah.
to dock it. I don't know that, but I've seen that humanity seems to have lost its personal and physical touch. And one of the things that I do is I send out a message to about 900 friends of mine that I'm acquaintances with. Okay. I like to say that I'm a wealthy man because I can count 5 friends on one hand. Real friends.
Yeah.
Because a real friend doesn't know your story. A real friend lives your story.
I love that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
They say you.
I send it out on Friday. It's a little bit about the week, going into Shabbos, which tonight is at sundown, and then tomorrow night it's an hour after sundown. My phone is off. I'm at temple. I'm praying and giving my thanks to God. And I send that out just to remind my friends. It doesn't matter whether they're Jewish or not Jewish. I send it out to them with a little bit of a thought. So, and today's thought was about honor.
I love it. I love it.
So,
Today, 6:30 in the morning, my company, we have 150 sales agents. And I'm like, I'm not in the office. My leadership, my executives are with me. And I'm looking at our chat. And out of 150 people, only 20 people are saying what they're grateful for. We have a culture. You have to be grateful for something. Wake up with a great attitude. And I'm like, I listed 20 things I'm grateful for. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And I said, this is a sales company. I said, if you can't align yourself with our mission and you can't sing the same song, find yourself a new choir. Until you go and put what you're grateful for, don't get on the phone. And if you don't think this is something that you want to do or you're willing to do and be part of this culture, this is volunteer army. I'm not going to force you. But if you're going to be here, you're telling me that you're going to be here. This is our standard. Please exit the chat and go home.
I love that.
Because people forget to be grateful.
How about The little kid that gets attacked with a terminal disease, they don't know why it happens.
Right.
We don't know why. People are like, well, why does God allow these things to happen?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that. We'll never know that, okay? And he's probably not going to call us up on the cell phone and tell us that.
Right.
But if you just think about all the things that you are grateful for and all the good things that are happening, okay, and you slow down and you look at them, then you can pass that on to another person. But everybody is so in need of immediate gratification, and that's from these phones.
Yeah.
That's from this technology.
Right.
Okay, I think that someone had told me that a person only looks at a reel up to 8 seconds. So the attention span of today's mentality is 8 seconds. What's the last book you read?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When's the last time you sat down and listened to somebody really speak about something?
Right.
Okay, or heard something that changed you, that made you feel different about something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And a lot of people feel rich because they have a lot of followers. But in reality, they're very poor because they don't have the 4 or 5 friends they can count on. My dad always told me, you'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. Do you have 4 quarters? Do you have 4 people that you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I need you? That's being rich. That's having power, knowing that I have something that 95% of people don't, because everything is artificial. You can't fake good friends.
No.
You can't fake having a great wife, great kids. You have to work for that. You have to build that. And most people don't want to do that. They just want everything to be fabricated. To me, it's insane. I wanna touch base on something, because I work with a lot of people that don't come from good families, don't come from good homes. They go through a lot of challenges. I'm an immigrant myself. You said that you admired your father. He was your hero, right? You loved him. Why do you think you love him so much, even though he was not showing so much emotion? How did you fall in love with him, and how was he that hero for you when he wasn't showing you that much love?
So let me correct that.
Okay.
In his way, he showed me his
Yeah,
love.
and I can relate to that.
And he was always there.
Yeah.
And I wanted for nothing.
Yeah.
And no matter, if he couldn't get something, he would make sure that we had it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But he wasn't physically great or emotionally great at articulating his emotions.
Yes.
He was very reserved.
Yep.
Okay? He internalized a lot of things. My mother was the opposite. Okay? And my mother was the one always saying, your father's very proud of you.
Wow.
So when I went from playing Pop Warner to going to high school to going to college, my father never missed a single game of mine.
Wow.
My father was always at every Pop Warner practice at the end of the practice, because he would come home early. He would set his schedule. And granted, he would drive from New Hartford,
Wow.
which is not close,
No, not at all.
to West Hartford.
An hour long.
Right. And he would leave early just so he could be there, maybe watch the last 15, 20 minutes. And then in high school, he would be there, standing there watching.
Yep.
And in college, he didn't come to practice in college, but he never missed a game, a play. And, every so often he would say, you did something really well there. I'm like, well, what did I do? He's like, you threw a great block. It was never, I had 6 touchdowns in that game, okay? I broke a touchdown, kickoff for 96 yards, or I took a punt back. No. What a great block you threw, okay? I'm like, Dad, I was a terrible blocker, I submarined the guy, because back then you could do that. And he's like, that's a great thing. So he in certain ways, he would show his vulnerability, but he never sat down and said, Mark, I love you. But when he was proud of me, he used to call me Marco Polo. And some of my friends call me Marco Polo.
What is the significance of that?
I have no idea. He used to call me that.
Wow.
His name was Paul. I don't know. He just call me Marco Polo.
I can relate to that in a different way. My senior high school night, I'm playing soccer, was very good. Written in multiple newspapers. Immigrant. My dad's working 80, 100 hours. I'm wishing that my dad will show up to my game. Wishing.
He did.
Not to mine.
No, he didn't?
No.
Oh.
No. And I came home and I was pissed off. I said, 3 years I play soccer. So many games. This is my senior night. My coach had to walk me because none of my parents showed up because they had to put food on the table.
Most people don't know what that is.
No. And I'm like emotional. I come home, I'm pissed off. And I respect and love my dad. But that night, I'm like, I can't believe you didn't show up. I told you this months after months. And he said to me, I said, you don't love me. He said, I don't love you. I break my back every day. I work 80 to 100 hours to put food on the table, to put a roof over your head. That's love. And at that moment, when I realized that everybody shows love in a different way. Some do say, I love you. But then, what means more, action or words?
Actions.
Actions.
Yeah, because words are meaningless.
Yeah. And that inspired and drove me insane to want to retire my dad. I said, wow, my dad loves me the most.
Yeah.
Because many people can come to you and say, I love you. But how are they showing you? How are they protecting you? How are they supporting you? And to me, that changed my entire perspective.
That's a deep story.
I wanted to ask you, because I've been doing my research, what is one thing that you wish you told your father that you never had a chance to do so?
So when I got married and I started having kids, I got much more in touch with my own personal feelings. And I don't think I ever didn't tell my father how much I loved him. But I sometimes wish that I was able to communicate to my father how proud I was to be his son. Because to this day, if I go back to Connecticut, and I go back, it happened to me the other, I don't know, maybe it was in, I want to say, maybe March. And I went back. My mother had passed away to sell her home. I went back there for to clear out the home and have this company that took care of her stuff and sold it. And I went to George's Pizza in Unionville because my father he had two offices, one in New Hartford and one in Unionville. And he had the office in Unionville with his brother, Bobby. And today it's a Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if you know Unionville at all.
Yeah.
So
Farmington, Unionville. Yeah.
So there's a place called George's Pizza there. And I love their pizza because my dad loved their pizza. And it's not Italian pizza. My father used to call it Greek pizza. I don't know why he would call it, because it was thicker.
Yeah.
It was, the squares.
Yeah.
So I go in there, and I go to pay, and the girl asked me, what's your name? And I said, Shapiro. And this little guy comes out from behind there, and he says, were you related to Paul? I'm like, yeah, that was my dad. And he says, I'm George. He says, I knew your father for 50 years. And he was an amazing man. And that used to happen to me over and over again. And I never knew the things that my father did to help people until my father wasn't around.
Wow.
So,
for me, people ask me, why do you do these podcasts? Why do you write in the books? Why are you going out there and doing trainings for people? I have my own personal mission, and that is to help 1,000 people reach 6-figure income. Take people from average and make them elite. And people say, why? And I said, because I want my kids to grow up to know that my dad wasn't just a guy. My dad was somebody who made other people's lives better. And when my kids go somewhere, I want people to tell them, your dad was a great man. And I want to have 1,000 names that I have impacted on my tombstone. And to me, what you're saying is, what you're sharing is like, wow, that is so powerful. That your dad may no longer be with us, but look how much his name has impacted so many people around him. And that is amazing. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you, you shared with me you had some failures in life, right? You're not a stranger to that. What is one failure that taught you the biggest lesson and gave you the biggest challenge to come back?
Getting divorced. A failed marriage. Because it affected my children. It affected their mother. It affected my family.
Yeah.
It affected her family. And obviously it affected me. And to this day, at this stage in my life, and at this stage in the relationship with my significant other, I can truly say that probably getting divorced was probably a good thing, because I wouldn't have this special relationship with someone who, I know it sounds crazy, who reminds me of my mother.
Oh.
Who is driven, smart, capable, beautiful, hustles, is a good mother herself. And she has a lot of I see my mother in her, okay? And I just noticed this the other day. And I told her that. And she's like,
and how long you been together?
We've been together about a year.
A year, and you just noticed that.
Yeah, I just noticed it. Yeah. And otherwise, I probably should have stayed in marriage counseling, and I probably should have stayed married, because it had a more profound effect on my daughters. And the most important thing to me is being a parent, and the greatest privilege to me is being a parent.
I love that.
There's nothing else. As that's the most amazing privilege, to be a parent.
I say this all the time. I say, you call me CEO, you call me founder, investor, this, that. The greatest title is that I'm a father. That it's so beautiful. I have 3 kids. I have 2 girls and I have a son.
Nice.
And I want the 4th one. I'm convincing my wife. I want the 4th one. I really do. But my whole life, just perspective on everything changed when I had kids. How can I tell you what to do if I'm not doing it? How can I tell you to be a better person when I'm being somebody who's not? I got to change everything I do, because now, one thing people don't realize, that our kids didn't ask to come to this world. We brought them in here, right? We brought them here. So we have to create a pathway for them to have most leverage. I didn't have leverage. Come from immigrant parents, came to the United States with $800, right? Parents got divorced due to money, fighting, And I said, when I'm looking at it, it's like, oof, I don't have leverage. I want to give my kids the biggest leverage. My kids could become president of this country. Why not? They were born here. What am I going to do as a parent to set them up to the point where they have the leverage to go out there and make it happen? Because that's my last name, right? And they're going to carry that last name. And people say, your last name, no one knows it. Watch. Everybody's going to know my last name because of my kids. Not because of me, but because of my kids. Because I'm going to set them up to win. I'll sacrifice every day of my life to make sure they live like kings and queens. And to me, that's the most important. That's what drives me today. My father's retired. Companies. I have multiple companies. Companies doing good. But what drives me is being that example for my kids. Why do you think marriages fail?
Because we're selfish. Because we're selfish.
Wow.
And I was selfish because I wanted a wife that put me first. And I wasn't number 4 on her list. I mean, in baseball, I'd be a home run hitter if I was number 4, batting 4. 3, I'd be the best hitter on the team. 1, I'd be a leadoff hitter. But she put her kids first, her family second, her friends third, and she put me 4th.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was jealousy or it was a lack of. I don't know why.
At what point you realize how many years into it, I'm not happy. This is not working.
I was happy in the beginning.
In the beginning, yeah. At what point you start saying, I'm number 4, not number 1?
I want to say after the first couple of years.
Yeah.
So, maybe it was after our first daughter was born.
And then you had 3 more.
I had 2 more.
2 more.
I had 1 out of wedlock.
Gotcha. Okay. And at that point, that, okay, I'm not that happy. What do you do? Like if you were to bring yourself back now?
Well, like all men, we try to fix things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Can you fix it?
Went to counseling. At some point, I think it was about 8 years into marriage counseling, the marriage counselor told me, his name was John Joyce, and we had become friendly because he had lost his wife to cancer, and we had gone through that, and I just got to know him.
Wow.
And he told me, he said, look, your wife's not going to change. So you need to decide whether you're going to stay married, stay in an unhappy, abusive relationship, or you're going to leave. And I said, I thought about it. And I said, you know what? I'll file for divorce and she'll wake up. Didn't work that way. I filed for divorce. She got a divorce lawyer. And we went at each other for 2 years.
Wow. A lot of people think, oh, my relationship is not working out. But if I had kids, it will fix things. It will bring us closer. Do you think that's true?
Well, we kept on having kids. So, I don't know. To this day, I don't know. We don't speak.
Wow.
25 years later. I mean, even though I texted her.
By the way, that's very honorable of you to do, right? That's awesome. For me, my wife is my biggest supporter. Mm-hmm. I'm blessed. She homeschools all of our kids.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm traveling. I am doing this. Did you eat? Hey, make sure you rest. Loves me. And I remember we were so broke. We were living in her mom's basement. $400 a month. She hated the job that she was working. And she was working with 2 girls, Mahogany and Courtney. And she's like, Albert, I hate my job. I hate going there every day. I said, I promise you one day you'll never have to work. Just trust in me. Just believe in me. Every 6 months, our life is going to get better. This is 13 years ago. Every 6 months, our lives got better. Mm-hmm. So if you have a great partner, my advice to you is value that, appreciate that, cherish that, mm-hmm. and make sure that the people that believe in you, you give them the world. Because I didn't have many people believe in me. And she was the only one that did. And then once she did, it gave me this indomitable force. I can run through that wall. So, thank you for that. I have a question for you. And that question is, if you could debate with anybody that you've seen on the social media platform, anybody, that you're like, that person is full of shit, mm-hmm. right? Not because they sell their courses for too much money, but because they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. And you could sit across them, just like you and I are sitting, and you could debate with them back and forth to expose them. Who would that be?
No one's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would pick somebody in my industry, or I don't know if I would pick Wes Watson.
Wes Watson.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I still follow him.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to listen to him. And some of the things he actually said until recently,
Yeah. Yeah.
Within the last 6 months, he's gotten pretty absurd. But he actually used to say some decent motivational things like, all right, you need a ritual.
Yeah.
You need to write down your goals.
Yeah.
You need to drive the ball down the field.
Yes.
These are all, simple and consistent things to do. Okay? But he's turned into this hypersensitive bully. And I just want to know does he have a relationship with his dad? I mean, what's his hyper masculinity through his possessions? Okay, possessions don't make you masculine. Okay, being big doesn't make you masculine. Okay, being courageous, changing the path of someone's life makes you masculine.
Yeah.
Opening the door for somebody, humbling yourself, doing something for another person, okay? But he's gone in such a crazy direction. I watched a little segment where he was talking about a guy, asked him, do you have any money? What do you mean you don't have any money? The guy said, I don't. He said, well, you have tits like a broad. But he was swearing at him. He was, stood up, wanted to get in a position to threaten the guy, okay?
I think I saw that video. That was on the stage, right?
Yeah, it was on a stage. It was fresh and fit.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll say this, and I'll use the adjective that I said. I'm not afraid of fucking anything. Because I've been broke, and I've been knocked out on my ass, but I still had my eyes open. Cold cocked, got in a fight, been stabbed. Okay, I'm not afraid of nothing. I got nothing to fear. Okay. And you're not going to scare me by yelling at me. You're not going to scare me by punching me in the face. Okay? But you have reach, and you can influence people. So why not do good with it?
I love that.
Okay. You do really well if you sell somebody a program and it makes them healthy and it changes their life. That's the positive.
Yeah.
But how you get to that positive,
Right.
don't be an asshole.
Right.
Because there's too much of that.
Right.
You could actually be a change agent for good. So maybe I would debate him. Maybe debating Grant. What am I going to gain by debating Grant? Okay. Grant knows how to value real estate.
Yeah.
He knows how to buy real estate.
Right.
He knows how to raise money. He knows how to sell training courses that could be worth something or worthless. I don't know. Okay. He knows how to be a TV personality. He knows how to fill a room. Okay. Jordan Belfort, he could take 2 boards and sell them to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does it glorify the fact of what he did? Probably not. Okay. What about this kid, Chris Pacello? I don't know if you know who he is.
No.
Okay. So I don't even think he's on social media, but this was the guy that ran all the clubs here in Miami Beach. And he had a home invasion in Staten Island, and he killed somebody.
Wow.
And he did some time, and then they came and got him. I think at the time he was dating Nikki Hunter, who was a supermodel.
Mm-hmm.
He hung out with Madonna's girlfriend, Ingrid. And he had Liquid, and he had Live. He had all these huge clubs. Big, tall, handsome guy. muscular guy. Went and did his thing. I guess he might have did a little singing and got out.
Wow.
And he's, you know, doing well. I think he started with a pizzeria in Hollywood, and he's doing well. I think he's back in Miami. I know he's back in Miami. So he's probably somebody I would love to interview.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? Because he could tell you some insane
Stories, yeah.
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 But debate, social media, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to. I mean, you're sitting with Patrick, so I think Patrick's insanely amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I happen to actually like Andy Elliott. I didn't realize so many people dislike Andy Elliott.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. You know, I'm not that familiar enough with social media.
Gotcha.
I've become friendly with JT Fox, and I think the guy's a beast. You know.
There's something you said. You said, you know, I've been stabbed, I've been punched, I've been kicked, I've been down.
Yeah.
Right? And I know you're a big fan of Les Brown, and Les Brown says, as long as you can look up, you can get up.
You know, I never bought a course.
Yeah.
But somebody gave me, years ago, cassettes of Les Brown.
Yeah.
Okay? And I would listen to those in the morning going to the gym. I
Yeah.
would listen to those in the afternoon. Okay? And Les Brown has definitely been through it. And I will tell you that, you know, he's still alive, right?
He's alive.
He's still alive.
Yeah. I saw him 2 years ago.
Les Brown is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay? Another guy, Eric Thomas,
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
It's almost like the new generation of Les Brown. It's so amazing how Eric Thomas speaks about Les Brown, how he used to listen to Les Brown.
Yeah.
And today he's inspiring the world.
So Les
Passing the
Brown
torch.
is in you know, he's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, you know, super amazing guys
Yes.
that don't even really realize. I don't think Matthew McConaughey realizes that he's really well spoken.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Harvey. I mean, he gets paid to speak, but I don't think he knows how impactful he is to people.
Yes.
You know, even, you know, there's so many guys that I like
Yeah. Yeah.
that speak extremely well.
Yes.
I'd love to be able to just sit in a room with them
Absolutely.
and just ask them anything.
Absolutely. I want to transition to our last question because I want to be respectful of your time as well. You know, we talked about mentorship. We talked about Wes Watson. We talked about people going out there and impacting people's lives for the better. Some people have mummies rather than mentors, right? Tell me what a mentor should look like, what a mentor should act like. What do you believe is an ideal mentor?
When you brushed your teeth this morning, did you look in the mirror?
Yeah.
That's what they look like.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. You're a mentor. You mentor all 115 people that work for you. When you send out a text, if you don't understand and you're not grateful for this, okay, today's the day that you should go home and take a day off and figure out what to be grateful for.
Yeah.
A mentor is somebody who tells you when you're fucking up.
Love that.
A mentor is somebody who tells you he's proud of you when you do well. Okay? And I'm always kind of vacillating on that fringe from telling someone I'm proud of them versus being condescending by even saying it. So I always preface it by saying, please don't take this in a condescending nature. I'm very proud of you. Okay? Because I don't look at my accomplishments as anything but the norm. But when I see somebody completely step out of their comfort zone, okay, and do something when I say do X, Y, and Z, and they'll do it, and then they'll come back to me and say, okay, what do I do next? And then you do this, this, and this next. And they're like, okay. So
Moral authority, accountability.
100%. 100%. Okay.
Wow.
You know, it's funny because the more I'm teaching, the more I realize I'm telling people to get off your ass. Okay? Stop whining about all the things that are not going right in your life.
Yes.
Look at what's good in your life.
Yeah.
And then figure out what you want to change and how you want to become better.
Yes.
And everybody wants a handout. There are no handouts. There are no free lunches. Okay? No one's going to pay your rent. No one's going to pay your mortgage. And no one's going to pay whatever your operating expenses are.
Right.
Okay? What you need to do is figure out how to generate that. And you need how to do it over and over again and get better and better and better.
Wow. There's no handouts. There's only hustle.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mark,
There's no free lunch.
thank you so much for being part of this podcast. So much value. I mean, goodness. We talked about family, marriage, parenting, business, real estate, exposing certain people. I mean, it's just amazing. Thank you so much for bringing so much value. It was a great to have you on The Rise of Entrepreneur. And you know what? Next time you're in Connecticut, we get some George's pizza.
Okay.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.